and welcome to my video on why to tour on a motorcycle. A little bit about me first. I've been traveling on motorcycles since 2018. I've traveled over 60,000 miles on my 1984 Honda Sabre 1100cc touring bike. I was fortunate to pick that bike up in Alaska in 2018 for $1,500, and I never got off the bike. I didn't have another vehicle until 2023 when my work required me to get a car as well to travel in winter. So I stayed on the bike, and I made over 6 cross-country trips in North America. I've also done a trip in Vietnam from the south to the north, a 2-month motorcycle trip on a little 125cc motorcycle I bought while I was over there. So I'm an avid motorcyclist. And the reason I love to motorcycle is the adventure and the travel aspect, the touring aspect. And I just wanted to make a video like this because it's my passion. Touring is so cool to me, and maybe you're looking into it, you want to know a little bit more about what's so special about a motorcycle trip as opposed to a road trip on a car, or just taking a plane somewhere and exploring places. Like, obviously travel has its merits, but a motorcycle trip is special. And I'm going to get into about 10 points as to why. I could probably make a few videos on this, so it might just be a part 1, but let's get into it. The first thing I like to talk about is kind of like a trance state. Trance state is, it's everything in a motorcycle trip. Anybody who's ridden a motorcycle for an hour knows what I'm talking about. Calmness in mind. Sometimes your thoughts feel a lot more fluid, and they make a lot more sense than in chaotic thinking of everyday life. So a motorcycle trip, when it's multiple days, it's perpetuated. There's a vibration of your bike. Let's say you're riding 6 to 8 hours a day, and you compound this, and then day after day you are entering this state all the time. It changes you. It's very powerful. It's very relaxing. It makes you smile. Like, life becomes simpler. It starts to make more sense. It's kind of a hack for real bliss and real peace, and while you're still doing something that's exciting. Trance state is a really cool part of this. The second thing that's kind of related is perspective. Just to gain perspective on your life. You step away from your everyday life and you get on your motorcycle and take a trip. Again, you have all that time to think, all that time to process. I always make this analogy in life because I've been such a traveler. I've spent many years living in New York City in my 20s, and I spent a few years living out in this little town called Hayfork, California, which is as rural as it gets, basically. And when I'd be in New York or I'd be in Hayfork, I'd try and imagine how myself would be in the other place, and I literally couldn't do it because the way I am and my body is, and how I'm communicating with someone at the bodega or deli in New York City, or walking those streets, as opposed to sitting by the wood stove on a mountain in Hayfork. It's the mental state you can't imagine. So why tour on a motorcycle? The perspective shift that happens when you're taking that time to do that kind of trip for yourself, the mental state you get in, the kind of perspective it puts on your life and how things are, I think is so valuable. Sometimes we have people in our lives who are like, hey, you can't take off and do that sort of thing, or you're running from your problems. I hate that saying, running from your problems. It's like, sure, there's some cases you're doing that, but let's say in this case, you're gaining perspective. You're not running away from something. You're taking time to basically gather yourself in a very healthy and inspiring way by traveling on a motorcycle. So, let's say, for example, you have a fight with your partner, and instead of just trying to figure it out and grind each other into the ground, you go, hey, give me a minute. I need to take a step back. Sometimes we have to do that with our lives, and a motorcycle trip is the best answer for that if you're inspired by this kind of trip. It'll give you perspective to come back to life with new energy. So perspective, that's number 2 on the list. Number 3 is confidence. You gain it through experience. And for me, I'm just going to talk for myself. Like, I think these motorcycle trips, they were so scary at first. I was a very inexperienced motorcycle rider, so I didn't even know how I would handle the roads in terms of my skill. Never mind the weather and, the traffic and what you come across otherwise, wildlife, people you meet, in towns, and you're just nervous about all that. But I was nervous about my skill on my new bike in 2018. Well, used, new to me bike in 2018. So after completing that first trip and then the next one and the next one and the next one, this was becoming something I felt I could do, and I could talk with agency about, and wow, to have confidence in my bike instead of worried like, hey, is this thing gonna break down today? So you can imagine after completing that trip and the half dozen others over the years, how sure I feel comparatively. I know my bike way better. Like, I'm not an expert on the mechanics of it, but I've done at least a dozen repairs on my bike, probably more like 20. And that's a huge confidence boost when you're riding. I've ridden hundreds and hundreds of roads. I've come across all types of wildlife, all types of traffic, all types of close calls. So you get the experience of this, and it's such a cool thing to gain experience in. And it definitely has brought confidence to my life, which we all can use. The next point on why touring on a motorcycle is so cool is, honestly, it's just simple. It's a great way to spend your time and money. Money is tight. It's always tight. And time is tight. And you got to be doing stuff that you really love. I haven't met a single person who says they regret their motorcycle trip. I'm sure there's some out there. Most of the people I've met on my motorcycle tours and people I've met otherwise, they're just stoked, about my trips and anything they're gonna do. They're happy they did it. So it's a good place to put your time and money. So the 5th point I really like, and this is about the people I've met. And I travel a little differently than some people. I utilized couch surfing, this Facebook group called Bunk a Biker, and I motorcycle camp a lot. So I'm not in motels where I'm solitary. I'm meeting people on my motorcycle trips, all in every state I go through. Sometimes I keep to myself because I like my alone time, but sometimes on the bike, you're out there for 8 hours. If you're camping, you're not meeting too many people sometimes. And you want to meet people, and you're in new parts of the country. You want to meet some new folks who live around there. Breaking down conceptions by meeting people on motorcycle trips has been a huge impact on me and why to tour on a motorcycle. You meet people all over the country if you take a big enough trip. Travel in general will give you this. It's not really specific to a motorcycle tour, but bikers are just great people. I mean, I've met so many nice bikers through Bunk a Biker, and I'll talk more about that in other videos. But if you want to look into that, I'll explain a little in the description below. and let you know a little bit more about Bunk a Biker. Yeah, on top of that, just meeting anybody new, no matter their politics or their background, sometimes staying in their house or throwing your tent up in their yard, or meeting people at the campsite or gas stations or restaurants as you're touring on a motorcycle. It's very, very positive for growing a rich interpretation. It doesn't broaden perspective. It kind of comes back to that. So now we're at number 6 on why to tour on a motorcycle. And this one's just about the alone time and detaching from the phone. You spend 8 hours a day on the bike. It's the best way to detach because you're filling the void of you're always checking your phone throughout the day, or maybe you're just kind of addicted to people and conversation, and this will help you ground into yourself. And it's not for everyone, to be honest. I've always leaned towards being a loner. I'm okay with being alone. A lot of people could benefit from the alone time you feel on a bike, just being comfortable with your own thoughts, being, comfortable with the deep thoughts you get, or the funny stuff you think about, or, being okay with all that time in your head. And if you're camping too, you get through the night without it. You might not have service. It's good. It's just a good way to detach in a way that, if you go through this at home and you're like, okay, I'm just not going to use my phone today or for a week, or try and limit yourself. That's difficult for me. But when I have something as exciting and as fun as a motorcycle trip that I'm on and riding every day, it's an easy trade-off. And after a few days, you just feel more in tune with yourself. You're in tune with nature more. You're in tune with the bike. It's a great trade-off to take a break from all that stuff. Number 7, this is one of my favorite parts of why to tour on a motorcycle. This is very specific to touring and not just riding. Just becoming one with the machine. Your body will form to the bike. The first day is going to hurt. The second day will hurt. Day 3, day 4, your body kind of gets used to what you're putting it through. And I don't know if it's great for your posture or whatever, but it's a good feeling. It's like being on a horse. A horse isn't great for your posture, but you can become accustomed to it. If you're not used to riding a horse and you ride it for a few hours, you get off and you will be so sore you won't even know what's sore. You're sore in places you never felt. And motorcycle is similar. And but after a few days, you become one with the machine. You feel comfortable, and on top of that, when you're riding, man, it just doesn't get any better than day 3, day 4, onto day 30 of your motorcycle trip, where you're so used to this bike that you can do anything. That is one of the coolest parts. The sad thing is it goes away. I know my bike. It's the only bike I know in any case. I know it so well, but if I winter it for 3 months, 4 months, I get on it, I feel a little sketchy. Obviously it all comes back quick, but I don't ever get to the level of oneness with the bike unless I'm on a trip. Because even if I take a 4-hour ride one day, I come home and then I work for a week, or I'll take a couple little short rides at night, for an hour or two in the summer after work. It's not the same. You get this oneness with the machine and this fluidity with the feeling. The sound of it, the smell of the gasoline, all that stuff is, it's just a beautiful concoction. you get this trust. All right, so almost done here. So number 8, why to tour on a motorcycle. This is another like deeper thought with it, is just becoming more connected with nature, weather, and time. The way time passes, it's a lot slower on a motorcycle. Again, I don't have a phone I'm looking at when I'm riding. I write my directions, and you're feeling everything. I used an open face with goggles, and so everything is basically open. You're feeling the rain, you're feeling the sun, you're feeling the wind, and you're working with it, and you're getting through with it. And if you're motorcycle camping, you're sleeping in it. There's a thing you become accustomed to if you spend a lot of time outdoors and you don't go inside. Your body can handle the cold or the heat better. I mean, it's like what animals do all the time. Because we go into our climate-controlled homes, they mess with our way to feel comfortable in different uncomfortable weather conditions. So that starts to happen on a motorcycle trip. It rains and you're not so upset. You have the gear on you, and you get through it, and the sun can beat down on you, and you keep your sunscreen and this and that, but you just become really in tune with the nature around you. It's one of the best parts about motorcycling is, as opposed to being in a car on a road trip, is the experience of the weather. People who don't ride don't really understand that. I mean, you get all the bugs smack in your face, and your windshield will be covered in guts and blood after days of motorcycle riding in the summer. That just shows you how you're not removed from it. You're a part of all this that's happening. And the fact that time just passes way more naturally. I mean, if you ride all day, you'll just watch the sun go where it goes all day. That's what you're doing. You're outside all day. So it's just a great way to be outside and on this earth traveling. That's a great reason why to tour on a motorcycle. I'm gonna end it at 8. I was thinking, I'll do 10, but there's no reason. I just was gonna make that up and then come up with some more, but I had 7. I pushed that last one, and now I'm gonna say that's enough for this time. I truly think I could talk about this forever, but at least with me learning how to do these videos, stuff comes up just randomly throughout the day, and could come up in a week or two, and if I do get some more thoughts, I'll just do another video on why touring on a motorcycle is so cool. And if you watch this, I'm so grateful. Please like and subscribe if you found it useful. All I want to do is share my enthusiasm for this thing we do, riding motorcycles, traveling on them, share my experiences and my enthusiasm and my love for it. Hope I brought a bit of a different view on why touring on a motorcycle is so cool and why it's worth doing. Thank you again for watching, and be sure to catch the next one.